Lancashire. Counterfeit clothing boss sentenced for fraud worth more than £150 million. Two men involved in one of the UK's largest ever carousel tax frauds have been sentenced to a combined total of 31 years in jail. Sock manufacturer Arif Patel, 55, of Dubai, was sentenced in his absence to 20 years behind bars, while co-accused Mohammed Jafar Ali, 59, also of Dubai, was also sentenced in his absence to 11 years in jail. A joint HM Revenue and Customs, HMRC and Lancashire Police investigation found Arif Patel, formerly of Preston, and his criminal gang tried to steal £97 million through VAT repayment claims on false exports of textiles and mobile phones. They also imported and sold counterfeit clothes that would have been worth at least £50 million, had they been genuine. The proceeds were used to buy property across Preston and London through offshore bank accounts. In total, 26 members of this criminal empire have now been convicted and sentenced following 6 trials between 2011 and 2023, leading to jail terms totaling 147 years and 7 months. More than £78 million of the gang's assets have been restrained, and the process to recover these proceeds of crime is in progress. Eamon O'Neill, Assistant Director, Fraud Investigation Service, HMRC, said. Arif Patel and Mohammed Jafar Ali were at the heart of one of the biggest carousel tax frauds this country has ever seen, and the severity of their crimes has been recognized by today's sentencing. We will continue to pursue those criminals who blatantly steal from the public services we all rely on and look to recover the proceeds of their crimes from current and future wealth. We are determined to ensure absconders face justice, and we have helped secure the return of more than 70 fugitives since 2016. Including some of the UK's most harmful tax cheats. We encourage anyone with information about tax fugitives or suspected tax fraud should report it to us online. Search Report Fraud mercangov.uk and complete our online form. Andrew Fox, Senior Prosecutor, CPS, added. The sentencings of Arif Patel and Mohammed Jafar Ali successfully conclude this part of an immense investigative and prosecution case against an organized criminal group involved in counterfeit clothing, fraudulent VAT claims and money laundering. The cost to the public purse was tens of millions, money that could have been used for essential public services in the NHS, social care and education. Patel was sentenced in his absence, having remained in Dubai throughout the trial. London. Trident investigation leads to jailing of man who fired gun in attempt to intimidate former girlfriend. A man who fired a gun in an attempt to intimidate a former girlfriend outside a busy pub during New Year's Eve celebrations has been jailed. Cardale Thompson, 26, of Clifford Gardens, NW10, was jailed following a sentencing hearing at Southwark Crown Court on Wednesday, May the 24th. He had pleaded guilty to discharging the firearm in the early hours of the 1st of January 2022 at an earlier hearing. The court heard how Thompson had turned up at the pub in Chamberlain Road, NW10, at around 21:30 hours on the 31st of December 2021. Throughout the evening, Thompson made attempts to speak to a former girlfriend. The woman was not interested in engaging with him, and as the evening drew on, Thompson became more agitated, culminating in him shouting that he was going to get a firearm and return to the venue. At around 30 minutes into the new year, Thompson returned brandishing a handgun, shouting threats to his former girlfriend. He fired the weapon into the air outside the pub and then attempted, but failed, to discharge it again. Thompson then attempted to gain access to the pub, but was pushed back by staff. He then fled the scene on foot, throwing the gun into a nearby garden. Thompson returned a short time later, by which time police had arrived and he was arrested. The gun was recovered and Thompson's DNA was found on it. A search of his address by officers uncovered quantities of cocaine and ketamine, packaged for sale, along with a phone which provided further evidence of drug dealing. Thompson was charged with firearms and drugs offences on the 2nd of January 2022. Detective Chief Inspector Matt Webb, a Trident detective from the Met's Specialist Crime, said, "It is only by good fortune that Cardale Thompson was unable to discharge this firearm more than once, preventing significant injury or worse from occurring." This sentencing reflects the dangerous nature of Thompson and the gravity of the offences he committed. Thanks to the joined-up work of prosecuting counsel and the Crown Prosecution Service, together with Trident detectives, this matter has progressed successfully through the courts and a dangerous man is now behind bars. Ilford detectives charge man in connection with Ilford double murder. Chibiak Ohanwe, 21, of Heath Park Road, Romford is due to appear in custody on Thursday, May the 25th at Bromley Magistrates Court, charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder. Ohanwe was arrested in the early hours of Wednesday, May the 24th, taken into custody and later charged as above. Police were called at 0:16 hours on Tuesday, the 25th of October 2022, by the London Ambulance Service to reports of a shooting inside a house on Henley Road in Ilford. Armed officers attended along with local officers and paramedics. 3 men were found with gunshot injuries. Saidi Abu Sheikh, aged 23, and Zakaria Jalani Mohammed, aged 32, who were both from Ilford, died at the scene. A 30-year-old man was taken to hospital with gunshot wounds, where he remained for some time in a serious condition. He has since been discharged from hospital. The families of all 3 men continue to be supported. 4 men have been charged as part of the same investigation. Ayani Ali Aden, 20 of East Street, Barking, was arrested on the 11th of November 2022 and charged with 2 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder, possession with intent to supply a Class B drug, possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life, possession of a knife in public, possession of ammunition for a firearm without a certificate. Zain Mirza, 20 of 3rd Avenue, Newham, was arrested on the 23rd of November 2022, and Mahed Gauld, 21 of Charles Street, Enfield, was arrested on the 24th of November 2022. They were both charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Zachary Mohammed, 18 of Kensal Rise, Kensington, was arrested on April the 12th and subsequently charged with 2 counts of murder, attempted murder and 2 counts of possession with intent to supply a Class B drug. A provisional trial date has been set for October 2023. Edinburgh, UK. Rhys Bennett sentenced to 24 years in jail for the murder of Jill Barclay in Dice. At the High Court in Edinburgh on Wednesday, May the 24th, Rhys Bennett pleaded guilty to the rape and murder of mother of 2 Jill Barclay in Dice, and attempting to defeat the ends of justice. He was sentenced to 24 years in jail. Following the hearing, the officer who led the inquiry, Detective Superintendent Andrew Patrick, said, "I hope this sentencing brings some comfort to Jill's family and friends who have shown immense strength throughout this investigation. Our thoughts remain with them at this difficult time." Jill's senseless and brutal murder had a significant impact on the local community in Dice and throughout the Northeast. I would like to thank the public for their support throughout the investigation to bring Bennett to justice. On Saturday, September the 17th, 2022, 47-year-old Jill was found dead near to Stonywood Road and a murder investigation was launched. Our inquiries, including CCTV analysis, quickly led to 23-year-old Bennett being traced in Fife, where he was arrested and charged later that day. I believe that the evidence we were able to gather has led to Bennett's guilty plea, and, as a result, Jill's family has been spared the further distress of a trial. This was a particularly harrowing investigation and it deeply affected everyone involved. I am glad that Bennett will now face the consequences of his depraved and wicked actions. Thankfully, crimes like these are extremely rare in our communities. When such incidents take place, we will use all resources necessary to carry out thorough, rigorous inquiries to ensure we track down those responsible to bring them to justice as swiftly as possible. Jill's family has released the following statement. We would like to thank family, friends and the community for their comforting support following Jill's tragic death as we have waited for justice. Liverpool, UK. Trial collapsed after disgraced police officer researched defendant. Jason Carr tried to encourage jury members to carry out research online. A former police officer who was sacked by his force caused a trial to collapse after speaking to members of the jury. The Crown Prosecution Service said Jason Carr, 52, a former Cheshire police officer, researched the background of a defendant charged with serious sexual offenses during a trial at Chester Crown Court in April 2022. Carr's actions came to light when the jurors notified the judge they had been approached by the sacked officer. South Wales. Man strangles partner and hit her in the face with bag carrying vase and doll. A thug strangled his partner and hit her in the face with a shopping bag containing a vase and a child's doll after he accused her of flirting with her teenage son's friend. The victim said the abuse she had suffered at the hands of her boyfriend had left her an emotional mess. Dale Mason, 43, of Caerphilly, was violent towards his partner during their relationship and accused her of lying when he was questioned about his behavior by police. The victim was left unable to breathe during the attacks and had trouble speaking due to the pain she felt. A sentencing hearing at Newport Crown Court on Friday heard Mason and the victim had been in an on or off relationship since 2015 but were on good terms before the first assault took place. On November the 23rd, last year, the victim's son had a friend visit, but once they had left, the defendant accused the victim of flirting with her son's friend and called her a slag and a pedophile. Prosecutor Ruth Smith said the victim told Mason to leave but he refused, so she went upstairs. Having fallen asleep, she was woken up by the defendant at 1:03 am, who was throwing Christmas presents down the stairs. They began to argue and Mason hit the victim to the face with a carrier bag containing a vase and a child's doll, before throwing the bag down the stairs, causing it to smash. The victim suffered pain to her nose and mouth and called the police when the defendant refused to leave, but upon learning the police were on their way he left with the house key. He was arrested and cautioned, but denied the assault. The second incident took place on March the 1st after Mason and the victim had rekindled their relationship, before she left to spend the night with friends. In Caerphilly Town Centre, the couple argued about the defendant using dating websites and she told him to leave but he refused. She returned shortly later having been unwell, but only planned to change her top before leaving in a taxi which was waiting outside for her. And another argument began between Mason and the victim and he grabbed her around the neck while lifting her off her feet. Ms. Smith said she could not breathe but did not lose consciousness. The attack came to stop when the taxi driver knocked on the door, which allowed the victim to escape. She was upset and shaken by what had happened. The next day her neck was sore and she struggled to speak. The third attack took place on March the 6th when Mason lost his temper over a television signal and blamed the victim for it not working before throwing a packet of cigarettes at her. The victim's friend arrived at the house, but she felt the defendant was trying to intimidate her. When the friend left, he pushed the victim in her chest with both hands and raised his fist at her. He then grabbed her around the throat with his right hand, but the defendant when a passer-by saw what was happening and intervened. Mason, of Brinft Bedwas, went across to confront the passer-by but his niece had arrived to pick him up and he left in the car with her. He was later arrested and denied assaulting the victim, but he later pleaded guilty to 2 counts of intentional strangulation and assault by beating. The defendant has 2 previous convictions for criminal damage and a public order offense. In a victim personal statement read out the court, the victim said, "Since being with the defendant I would describe myself as an emotional mess. My emotions are up and down because of the incidents and when I think about them, I space out and go blank. Even though the defendant is in custody my anxiety is high. Prior to meeting him, I was lively and bubbly, but I have become physically and emotionally exhausted. The assaults have caused me back problems and I am awaiting physiotherapy." In mitigation, Gareth Williams said his client had turned to drinking after a work injury left him 80% blind in one eye, which caused him anxiety and depression. He said this led to a spiraling situation which culminated in the domestic assaults. The barrister said the defendant also believed he may be suffering with PTSD due to his upbringing in which he was a witness to domestic abuse. Recorder John Philpott sentenced Mason to a total of 18 months imprisonment. He also made him subject to a restraining order preventing him from contacting the victim for 5 years. We thank you for watching our crime videos, so as not to miss any updates and for us to continue bringing you these local stories. Please subscribe below absolutely free.